don't see that very often. So I don't know. You tell me how long this parade is going to be. It's a doozy. Here's a nice string of internationals. 1206 standard. And as a reminder, it was 1206 was kind of the featured collection here in Rantoul this year. I think the official account at this point, just after noon on Saturday, was 263 tractors. But it's going to be impressive to see this this lineup of tractors. Well, we're going to take a little stroll down the muscle tractor collection here. We got a big 1150 Massey 1964 D21, beautiful 1466, and a G1350. Says white, Minneapolis Moline. White Corporation bought, well, they bought Minneapolis Moline, and they bought Oliver, and they bought everything that wasn't fastened down. There's a really nice LPG G100, or 1000 rather. So here's the really nice stuff in this collection. 806 with a Cummins diesel in it. You don't see that very often. And we have an, I don't know what is it. It's a something. Looks kind of like a swamp buggy. Well, we're going to go down the other side. There's another Massey 1150, a big John Deere 4240. See if I can have a look at some of this stuff without getting run over. G900, it looks pretty original. D21 that looks pretty original. Oh, it's the first D21 built. Yes. I think this used to reside up in Washington, the state of Washington, not too far from where I hail from. Spokane, Washington is my newly founded home. I say newly founded, haha, I've been there for 30 some years. And here's the last D21 built in 1969. I don't know if they still belong to the Krause factory or not. Here's a big boy, the biggest Alice I've ever seen, a Ford W-220. 8070. Here's a Farmall serial number 502 diesel. It was a second Farmall 806. The first one was gasoline. And here we got the big case 2296. That's a monster as well. And here's the Spirit of 76. I believe this was the 1976 case. I don't know what model it was. Beautiful, got brand new tires all the way around. Let's see if I can find what. I don't see any model designation on it, so it's a big boy though, that's for sure. An Alice 210. They did a 220 as well, and that was a replacement for the D21. Here we have a 63 Farmall, serial number 506, out of Kalamazoo, Matt's tractor. And 1566, that's a big boy. That was a real big boy. nice. 1466. They're all getting kind of dusty right now. All getting kind of dusty. It's been real dry, no rain, been pretty warm into the high 70s, low 80s. So that creates dust when you got a million little buggies and golf carts and whatever roaming around in the same track. The grass gets worn away pretty quickly. Here we have a couple of Olivers, a Super 77. Looks probably like a standard. Yep, and there it says Oliver 77 standard. And here's White, a couple of White field bosses. White's the company that bought out Oliver and Minneapolis Moline and I'm not sure what else. Eventually that all dissolved as well. White had been a truck company for quite a few years. And let's look at a string of cockshuts out of Canada. Here's a 570 Super, another 570, and yet another 570. Beautiful condition. Here's an older 50s, or 50, that'd probably be a maybe late 40s, early 50s. I'm not real much of an expert on some of these other brands. I know mostly about international harvesters. A Super 55, an 880 diesel. Woohoo. Oh, here's a really, really nice Minneapolis G708. I like that. I guess she's pretty. That's why I like it. Front wheel assist. And let's cruise down this little string of tractors. An Oliver 88, a Super 77. Slightly newer vintage is the 880 diesel here. And even newer yet is the 1750s. That's probably a 60s already. We're getting, oh yeah, 68. And here's a 64, 1900s. So they would have gone from like 1700 to 1750 to 1755, I think is how it goes. And there's probably subtle distinctions between them, but not being an Oliver expert, I wouldn't be able to tell you. Well, I guess we're going to take a little stroll and look at even more Olivers. I think there's a lot more Oliver here than there ever was that I recall. And there seems to be a lot more of everything. More Alice, more Mini, more Oliver. International seem to be about the same amount. They always have a pretty strong presence. So again, let's have a cruise down through here. Here's a 1932 Hart Par, which was kind of the predecessor. There was Hart Pars before they were Olivers. And that's a 1932 model, as I said, an 1822 or 27. I can't distinguish the hieroglyphics. Nice little Oliver 500. And a 70. And a 77, which would have been a bit newer. There's an 1800. We talked about their numbering sequence earlier. Row crops 70. You know, they made like every other manufacturer. Often they made a row crop and a standard version. Row crop, of course, built for beans and corn, and standards were more utility I don't want to say utility, but they didn't have an adjustable front axle. I mean, you probably wouldn't use them to cultivate. They were more of a tillage tractor or something where you didn't need to go down the rows of anything, and you didn't need the 3-point hitches. More sophisticated hitching systems. All you needed was a drawbar. Well, we're back out along the runway again. There's an interesting combination. A couple of John Deeres in tandem, pulling a trailer, probably 4 bottoms out there. 3088 International, pair of 1206s. A short string of John Deeres, and lineup just out of sight down there. Just amazing with how long this, I don't know what I could probably look it up. I think this runway's about a mile long, and they use all of it. Parade will probably last a couple of hours. So we'll sneak back off to the sidelines here and look at some, maybe some Minneapolis Moline. Check out this string of Minneapolis Molines. There's a Minneapolis Moline BF high crop there, a U302. 68 model. Looks like a very original G1350, and it's for sale. And here's some older stuff from the 40s and maybe into the 50s. And again, I think we've got more minis here than we had ever before that I recall. 445, a UB, M670, M602. Oh, they got some signage. That's a 1964 model. That looks to be pretty original. 1962 M5. That's real nice shape. I'm guessing it was probably restored. Model U, 1950, so that's some time period comparison there, and a G1050. Now here's something that you may never see again in your life, a pair of 4300s. One's restored. I think that was probably used to belong to Farmall land. And I could never even guess who this one belonged to. Doesn't look to be restored at all, maybe still being used. Big powerful tractor. And I don't know if it was the first, but a very, very early international entry into the four-wheel market. So I like them. Here's a string of big four-wheel drives, Mad Mix and International 4-100. Big Steiger Panther. Very early Steiger. Don't know what model that would be, but a very early one. And they all seem to be original. So, and a Versatile. Here's a nice string of International Harvester products. So 1568 with a V8 truck engine in it. Here is what is being called a Wheatland 1456. Wheatlands did not come from the factory with a torque amplifier. I suppose you could add anything on later, but originally Wheatland was a stripped down version. It had the narrow fenders, which this has. It did not have a torque amplifier, but it's still a beautiful tractor. Next to the 1456 is a 1066. Really nice looking International 600. International 660. One time that was the big horse. This would have taken over probably from the 600. Beautiful tractor and a really nice 660 with duals, front wheel assist, diesel. Really nice tractor. Well, here's another section of the parade. I believe it started, but the queue is so long that these guys are still sitting here chatting on their cell phones and getting together and gossiping. And there's a big Steiger down there. He's a real big boy. And it looks like, I don't know if you can see the flashing lights way down there, there's a semi, low boy, with a big Caterpillar earth moving piece of equipment. Big parade. Here's a string of tractors made by J.I. Case, kind of the original company. 1959 vintage. An 800, a 900, an 830, a couple of 830s, a I guess it's a row pop, and a 1070, 630. Well, to continue our string of J.I. Case tractors, here we go. And contrary to what the Case people will tell you, Case did not buy out International Harvester. Oh, pretty nice. Looks to be fairly original 806. Tenneco was a conglomerate that had already owned J.I. Case since the early 60s. And then in 1985, they purchased International Harvester and merged them into Case IH, and they've changed the exact name a few times, but that's the crux of the story. And they used, I guess Tenneco already owned Cummins, so they used Cummins engine, and so Case and International Harvester were both kind of extinct, although for the first several years of Case IH, a lot of their equipment, practically all their implements, combines, were still International. So now that I've got all the J.I. Case people stirred up and calling me a liar, I'll move over to Alice Chalmers. Well, here's a Case 75 combine harvester and a Case 400. Spent quite a bit of time on one of those with their difficult to deal with transmission. It was a dual range transmission with one shifting lever, and it was tough. It was tough. So 1370 and a 970. Beautiful tractors though. They were good tractor, nothing wrong with them. Okay, well, we're in Alice land now. I think Alice got bought out about the same time International Harvester did, mid 80s, around 85. A lot of big boys here. 220, that was a successor to the D21. They made a 220 and a 210. 210 being just a tad smaller, slightly lower horsepower. 220 land handler. So we're talking tractors from the 70s here, early 70s. There's a D15 built in 1961. An Alice 185, which is probably about a 3-plow tractor. And this D21 looks like a puller. 190 XT. That was a 1971 model. Looks like it's probably been restored or very well cared for. It was a 64 190. The 190 and the 190 XT were kind of big brother, little brothers. The XT was turboed, and from what I understand, the 190 was not. So huge collection compared to what they usually get for Allis-Chalmers here. Pretty amazing. We'll cut over here. Here's a 1941 Allis WC, and they went to the WDs and the WD 45s and the D series tractors. A little bit newer, more horsepower, more conveniences. There's a Allis-Chalmers jalopy. And I'm not sure what this was. Maybe an Allis-Chalmers U, something from the 30s. No, I take that back. It's a Allis-Chalmers A, 1938. Here's a really nice WF, 1937. And another string of Allis's. And they're all over the place here. Like I say, this is more Allis's than I ever saw here before. So I think I'm going to walk out to back out to the runway. The parade's going on, and catch some of the parade. Oh, and tucked in here along the tarmac is a string of Massey Ferguson's 1150, 1130, 1100, 180, or excuse me, 1080, 180, 175, 165. Looks like the whole production string down here. Beautifully restored, very nice. Well, it looks like the line is starting to move. I see the big Steigers actually rolling. 560, beautiful 5010 diesel. An old, probably a G, unstyled. A G that is styled. Nice, should be a 1976, 1466 International, black stripes, what they called them. We'll continue the stroll. Let's see if I can get some pictures of this thing on the move without me shaking it too much. He's a big boy. Here's a John Deere 3020 diesel with a rollover plow. I didn't know such a thing existed until I started going to tractor shows regularly. That's a 1965 model. Little Ford. I didn't quite mingle too much in the Ford contingent down there. There's quite a few Fords. Beautiful little Farmall C with a planter on it, front mounted planter. Caterpillar powered 560. A Snorton 5010 ready to go. And again, here's their pair of old John Deeres. So we're talking, well, the front one's probably a 40s and the second one is probably late 40s, early 50s. Really beautiful 210 Allis, 1972 model. Behind him's a 1954. No, negative. Is that an M or an H? No, it's a composite tractor, a fake, a Super HTA, of which they made zero. It's a homemade concoction, probably the back end out of a Farmall 300 and the front end out of a Super H. Quite a nice looking 1206 or 67. An Allis G17 looks to be pretty original. yahoos are trying to do, cut across, I guess. That's a shame. Beautiful 7520. Really nice looking, really nice. 1206. Beautiful 830 diesel John Deere. That would be a late 50s, early 60s. It is gorgeous though. Followed by a 70, which would have been the successor to the John Deere Model G. And what's with all the golf carts and whatever running around inside our parade here? Geez, idiots anyhow. An unstyled G. Oh, here comes the Christmas tree tractor. There he goes. He's got a flag and everything attached to her. It's a Super A. Been modified. It's got a belly mower and for trimming trees. Really nice 4020. And the 3010 standard. I spent a fair amount of time on a 3010 diesel. The conventional row crop version though. Really beautiful 1468. Really nice. Very nice restoration. Followed by a Lodestar 1600. Very nice. Comes a parade of big boys. Big Al, it says. Big Alice Chalmers, 8550. Big John Deere WA-17. I'm not sure about the history of that. That may have been some kind of prototype. Here comes a 7020. Still quite a few tractors to go. A big cat. A big cat. Another big cat, a big K-Whopper pulling it. Quite the rig, quite the setup. It says a Cat 660 on the tractor part of it, and it's Caterpillar 650 on the back part of it. Pretty amazing though, that's for sure. Quite the rig. Beautiful 6588. Makes me wonder if that was Richard Walker's tractor. It's a beauty, that's for sure. So we've got International, Oliver, Alice Chalmers, more Alice Chalmers. We've got Case, we got Massey Ferguson, we've had Steiger, we've had Versatile. This show has it all, folks. It's pretty amazing. beautiful 210.